Today we will delve into Thragg, the main antagonist of the Invincible comics, and one of the universe's strongest characters. We'll explore his role in the story from start to finish. But before we begin, spoiler warning. Let's get started. So, a little background on the Viltrumite menace. Thragg was born on Viltrum, the son of Emperor Argal's closest advisor. Thragg was trained and bred to be the strongest Viltrumite. But after the Emperor was killed by Thetis, the planet erupted into a civil war. Thragg would fight for centuries to restore the Empire. After the war, the Viltrumites would emerge as the strongest race led by Thragg, gaining the title of Grand Regent, tasked with finding the heir of Emperor Argal. He would keep Argal's skull to remind him of what would happen if the Empire were to fall again. But yet, another setback, as the Scourge virus was created, wiping a decent chunk of the Viltrumite population. This caused Thragg to assume the heir was dead, giving up his search for the heir, feeling he had earned his place as their leader. We don't really see Thragg until the Invincible returns issue. After Conquest loses his initial battle against Invincible, he stumbles back to headquarters, begging for forgiveness. Thragg harshly reprimands him for failing to kill Invincible and secure the planet, essentially calling him useless. Conquest pleads for another chance, and Thragg grants him one final opportunity: attack the evacuation ship, kill Invincible, and eliminate anyone aiding him. However, Conquest fails once more after a brutal battle that leaves Mark nearly dead. After the attack on the ship, the Coalition of Planets declares war on the Viltrumites and prepares for battle. However, it's revealed that Thragg has a spy within the Coalition. Thragg plans to attack the Coalition's secret headquarters. While the Coalition is holding an assembly to discuss the war, Thragg's soldiers launch an assault on the HQ, prompting a response from the cavalry. Meanwhile, Thragg, in typical villain fashion, remains aboard his ship, speaking to Argal's skull and vowing vengeance. On the ground, his Viltrumite soldiers battle Thetis, but with Omni-Man's help, Thetis is saved. Mark and Oliver then fly up and destroy Thragg's ship. Enraged, Thragg almost attacks by himself, but without his army, he decides to retreat back to Viltrum. Thetis orders a counterattack on the Viltrumites before they can regroup and attack again. However, as they descend to Viltrum, they are intercepted by Thragg and his army, leading to a huge battle. As the fight continues, Mark approaches Thragg, mistaking him for an ordinary Viltrumite, not knowing who he is or his strength. Thragg easily smacks Mark away. Oliver attempts to attack Thragg while joking, but Thragg grabs his arm and comments he loves a good joke, then proceeds to dismember him, seemingly killing Mark's younger brother. Enraged, Invincible attacks Thragg, but only can give him a nosebleed. Thetis, however, has a plan to end the war, destroy Viltrum. Nolan, Mark, and Thetis fly through the planet and blow it to smithereens. Thragg cries as his home and legacy is destroyed. Thetis demands the Viltrumites surrender, but Thragg isn't going for none of that. So enraged, Thragg took Thetis's head clean off, finally avenging Argal. Thragg then turns his fury on Mark, beating him mercilessly. Nolan tries to intervene, but is overpowered, and they both struggle against Thragg. Nolan tells Mark they cannot win and urges him to run. Thragg then grabs Mark, smashes his head, and impales Nolan with his arm. Despite his dominance, Thragg decides to spare Mark, stating that the Viltrum Empire needs every Viltrumite alive, and retreats to his warship. When Mark and Nolan return to Earth, Thragg reveals himself. Mark tries to fight Thragg, but Thragg suggests they talk instead. Thragg decides to surrender, but with one condition: the Viltrumites must take over Earth. Mark loses his temper, but Thragg elaborates on the plan. He explains that the Viltrumites will blend in with humans and interbreed with them to replenish their ranks. Thragg assures Mark that the Viltrumites will not interfere with human affairs, and the closest to pure-blooded Viltrumites will be human hybrid. Initially, Mark refuses, but eventually, he reluctantly agrees. At the Coalition of Planets HQ, Alan receives a contingency message from Thetis. In it, Thetis reveals he had developed a new, more potent version of the Scourge virus, which is far deadlier to Viltrumites. He advises Alan to use it if necessary and cautions him not to let his affection for certain Viltrumites interfere with his duty. In space, Mark encounters Alan and Oliver unexpectedly. Their reunion is brief as Alan reveals his plan to unleash the virus. Mark vehemently opposes it and attacks Alan in anger. To worsen matters, Oliver sides with Alan. Amid their conflict, Thragg appears and confronts them, aware of the Scourge virus, questioning why he shouldn't kill them. Alan threatens Thragg with the virus, but he remains unfazed, confident he can eliminate them before the virus affects him. Thragg proposes a truce, arguing that killing him would achieve nothing. Surprisingly, Alan agrees, but their discussion is interrupted by the Guardians of the Globe. Mark orders them to stand down, but Robot, wary of Mark's fugitive status, insists on taking him to the Pentagon. Mark refuses, leading to a skirmish. Meanwhile, Oliver seizes the opportunity to steal the Scourge virus from Alan. Invincible notices and pursues his younger brother. Mark catches up and they wrestle for the virus, until Oliver accidentally activates it, infecting his brother.
Thragg takes Mark to his warship. At the quarantine, Thragg approaches Cecil and reveals his agreement with Mark, reminding him that he must honor their deal or face destruction. He emphasizes that they can coexist and that the priority is to help Mark recover. Meanwhile, Alan asks Dinosaurus to assist with Invincible's recovery. Dinosaurus boards the ship and convinces Thragg of his usefulness, leading Thragg to demand the Guardians leave. Thragg then goes to an observation room where a scientist reveals something extraordinary. Mark's body is fighting off the virus, but more importantly, he is a match for the heir of Lord Argal. Shocked and infuriated, Thragg kills the scientist, eliminating the only person who knows the true heir of Argal is alive. While pondering his dilemma, Thragg is interrupted by Dinosaurus hacking into his chambers, requesting the notes of the previous scientist to continue his research. Thragg refuses, stating the files are unavailable. He then visits Mark, contemplating his task of retrieving the heir of Argal, while rejecting the idea of installing Nolan as the Viltrumite leader. Thragg attempts to kill Mark, but is stopped by Dinosaurus, who breaks his claws in the process, leaving Thragg unharmed. Dinosaurus then reveals he has taken control of the failsafe. If his heart rate drops too low, bombs will detonate around the ship. Knowing he cannot afford to lose the last Viltrumite warship, Thragg pummels Dinosaurus, breaking his jaw, and flies off to disable the explosives, leaving time for Dinosaurus to grab Invincible and escape. Upon returning, he is confronted by Adam Eve, who asks about Mark's whereabouts. When Thragg explains that Mark is no longer there, Eve prepares to fight. Thragg laughs and tells her to direct her anger at Dinosaurus. At this point in the story, things settle down for Thragg. The next couple appearances, he is seen managing the remnants of his empire, continuing to caution the Viltrumites to keep a low profile until their offspring receive their powers. Only then would they be strong enough to retake Earth. But when Thragg runs into Nolan, all that goes out the window. On the moon, Cecil reconciles with Omni-Man, but insists that Nolan must face some punishment for attempting to take over Earth. Nolan's sentence is to live on the moon. However, that's not all. Cecil also wants Nolan to monitor the Viltrumites, whose base is on the moon's far side. But as Cecil departs, Thragg arrives, and upon seeing Nolan with his wife, becomes infuriated and attacks him. Taken by surprise, Nolan tries to remind Thragg of their truce, but Thragg doesn't seem to care, blinded by rage. With Nolan oblivious, Thragg decides to tell him the truth. Delivering his villainous monologue, he reveals to Nolan that he is the true heir to the Viltrumite Empire. However, Nolan interrupts him with a punch, declaring he has no interest in the throne and doesn't want to lead. Refusing to fight back, Nolan faces Thragg's wrath as Thragg, unwilling to relinquish the throne, attacks him brutally. Thragg claims he deserves the throne for keeping the Viltrumites alive all this time, as Thragg is about to kill Nolan when he is interrupted by Craig, Anissa, and a few others. Thragg lies, telling them Nolan attempted to assassinate him and seize the throne, but they don't believe him, having overheard that Nolan is Argal's son. They turn on Thragg and attempt to kill him until Nolan requests they spare him. The Viltrumites bow to Nolan, who then assumes the role of Grand Regent. Thragg demands to be killed, but Nolan refuses, aiming to change the Viltrumite ways. Instead, he sentences Thragg to exile, much to Thragg's surprise. Thragg occupies the planet Thraxa due to his long lifespan and impregnates several Thraxan women to create Thraxan Viltrumite hybrids, anticipating the coalition will send someone to kill him. Battle Beast is assigned the task. Thragg is genuinely surprised, remarking that they might have been friends, if not on opposing sides. Their conversation is interrupted by the release of the Ragnars. Battle Beast assists Thragg in killing them, not wanting an unfair advantage. When Thragg is injured, Battle Beast inflicts the same wound on himself to ensure a fair fight. Thragg mocks him, and they engage in an epic battle lasting days with no clear victor. Ultimately, Thragg triumphs, and as Battle Beast dies, he thanks Thragg for a great battle. Thragg then crushes his heart and leaves the planet, taking all the warriors and women he can. He has Battle Beast's skin made into a cape with a golden Viltrumite symbol. Now on the run, Thragg, the Thraxans, and his many children roam the cosmos to avoid Coalition detection. However, Space Racer detects him, and Thragg kills several Coalition soldiers while Space Racer escapes. While searching for Thragg, Mark gets sucked into a deep cave and encounters a blue substance at the bottom, which transports him to another dimension and back in time. He arrives before Nolan kills the original Guardians, and before he and his mother learn of Nolan's true intentions. When Mark returns to his world, 5 years have passed. During this time, Thragg has been rebuilding the Viltrum Empire, and all of his children have reached adolescence. Thragg makes a move on Telescria, having his daughter Ursal attack a major building. Oliver, acting as a double agent for Thragg, asks for a face-to-face meeting. Thragg declines, insisting Oliver doesn't need to know his location. Meanwhile, Thragg orders 2 of his children, Onan and Ursal, to kill Mark Grayson. He calls Oliver again to inform him that he has located Mark and plans to kill him and his family, stating this as a test of Oliver's loyalty. Oliver tries to plead with Thragg, but it's too late. Onan and Ursal arrive and head straight for Mark's child, Tara. Mark fights back, grabs his daughter and tosses her to Eve, begging her to get them both to safety. However, Ursal pursues Eve and breaks her robotic leg. The duo fights for their lives, passing Tara between them. When Tara falls, her flight abilities are discovered, but as a novice, she can't fly well. Thragg appears and grabs her leg. As she struggles, Oliver intervenes, allowing her to escape. After a short battle, Thragg impales Oliver, killing him in front of Tara. Mark holds Onan hostage, demanding Thragg let his daughter go. Thragg calls his bluff, claiming Mark is too heroic to kill his son. Mark, however, kills Onan and attacks Thragg. Meanwhile, Eve is attacked by an enraged Ursal, furious over her brother's death. Thragg gains the upper hand on Mark and rips him in half. As Ursal is about to kill Eve, Thragg stops her, saying he wants them both to die slowly, leaving their daughter to die alone. After the battle, Thragg continued his conquest, taking over more planets and building up his army for a major attack against the Coalition. The time finally comes when Alan discovers the location of Thragg's base, prompting the Coalition to take the fight to him. Thragg is pleasantly surprised, but is ready than ever. He releases his massive army of his children to attack. Some of them prove too weak against Mark, dying in the process of attacking him. Ursal sees this, and she confronts Thragg, questioning whether the deaths of her siblings are worth it. Thragg grabs her by the throat, asserting that no sacrifice is too great for their mission, and that the fallen were weak and deserved to die. As the army proves overwhelming, Alan orders a retreat, and they barely escape with their lives. However, Thragg won't show any mercy and decides to attack them on retreat. The final battle starts with the Viltrumites, who left Thragg versus Thragg and his children. Then Invincible, Alan, Omniman, and the Coalition show up. Nolan goes straight for Thragg, exchanging blow for blow. Nolan tries his best, but Thragg proves he's stronger. Mark tries to help his father, but Thragg flings him away, telling Mark he is after his father. Returning back to Nolan, Thragg swipes through Nolan's body, tearing his heart out and leaving him for dead. Mark, enraged by what he just witnessed, charges at Thragg. Thragg hurls him away while summoning his children for assistance, using them as projectiles against Mark. However, they splatter upon impact, unable to withstand Mark's strength. Disgusted, Mark grabs Thragg and pulls them both into the sun, initiating their final battle. As their bodies burn, Invincible questions Thragg's motivations. Thragg reveals his desire for revenge and to see Mark's bloodline erased. Their intense fight continues in the sun's core, burning off their flesh. During the battle, Mark criticizes Thragg for being a terrible leader and Viltrumite, clinging to old practices that nearly drove their race to extinction and fighting for selfish, empty causes that hinder their species from reaching its true potential. Mark gains the upper hand when one of Robot's armors arrives and attaches itself to him mid-speech, providing him with a few extra moments of protection from the searing heat while Thragg continues to burn. As their fight intensifies and more explosions erupt from the sun, the lava melts the robot armor on Invincible. They continue battling inches from the sun, their bodies becoming increasingly unrecognizable. In the final moments of the fight, Thragg, having sustained far more damage than Mark, breaks both of Mark's arms in a fit of rage and desperation. Thinking quickly, Mark kills Thragg by ripping his throat out with his teeth. Prepared to die, Mark is saved when Alan arrives and carries him to safety, leaving Thragg's corpse to be consumed by the sun. With Thragg now dead, the Viltrumites can finally move forward as a people and become a force for good in the universe under the leadership of Mark's family. And that's the full history of Thragg. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button and comment a character you would like me to deep dive into next.